So recently, while they were trying to do the confirmation hearings for the new Supreme Court justice, there was I think he's a senator. Yeah, I think he's GOP senator who had some very, very fascinating perspectives on historical court cases. And I didn't find initially the just the clip, but this is some people discussing it on MSNBC. I'm not the biggest fan of MSNBC, but I wanted to get their perspective. Also touch on what happened, and we'll talk about it as we watch. So here we go.
This is a new comment we want to play so people understand just what's going on in this intersection of law and politics. It has been illegal for a long time for states to try to ban people from different races from getting married. You have the right to marry whoever you want, regardless of race, in America. And yet when
and should be gender, just saying, which it is, but that's under threat as well.
Comes to interracial marriage, this is new today, in an interview from Republican Senator Mike Braun this week.
So you would be okay with the Supreme Court leaving the question of interracial marriage to the states?
Yes, if you're not wanting the Supreme Court to weigh in on issues like that, you're not going to be able to have your cake and eat it too. I think that's hypocritical. We're better off having states manifest their points of view rather than homogenizing it across the country as Roe versus Wade did.
So the basic context behind this, to try and further broaden our discussion here, although it's not much of a discussion because I'm just speaking and you're listening, is that there has been a persistent push to try and call for states' rights to dictate whether or not abortion is legal or illegal. And the fact that it is federally protected is one of the reasons why you have the Texas law, which is basically a fucking bounty, where since the states can't punish people or legalize, abortion, instead there's basically a bounty system where individual citizens can sue people, even though it has nothing to do with them, if they in any way help to facilitate an abortion happening, which is bizarre. So they're trying to get around the whole basis of the laws and how they're in place. Now, this person is asking this GOP senator, well, if you're in favor of allowing states to dictate this, well, what about something like interracial marriage? And he says, well, yeah, states' rights. States should be able to themselves dictate their own individual perspectives rather than allow it to be a broad federal mandate. There are many problems with this, and we will discuss them, but I want to make sure that we understand where we're going with this. Yes, an abortion clinic can absolutely exist in Texas. It absolutely can. There's no law that says it can't, but they could also be sued into oblivion by private citizens that have nothing else but time on their hands to try and punish. So that's how they've tried to circumnavigate that shit.
That is a very outlandish claim. He's also referring to the idea that the states would then have the power to ban marriage between people of different races. The story really blew up today. That was recorded yesterday. Then he later said today, quote, that he misunderstood the question and says, quote, there's no question the Constitution prohibits discrimination of any kind based on race. That's not even up for debate. And I condemn racism in any form at all levels and by any states, entities, or individuals, end quote. I want to make sure people have the whole...
Now, it's kind of interesting. Keep in mind, the conversation wasn't about necessarily discrimination. They were saying about whether or not states should legalize or be allowed to illegalize interracial marriage. And there's a lot of weird wiggle room in how you could actually navigate that. I want to see what their expert here says.
Story. The original response is striking. His words are there, so people have the context that he is clearly saying afterward that he's against racial discrimination and that he's not standing by what you just saw on your screen. Ellie, your response.
This is a classic Republican two-step. where they say they're against racial discrimination, but they also say that they are in favor of the very kind of legal thought processes that led to the discrimination in the first place. So what Braun is talking about is a case called Loving v. Virginia. That's the case that allows for interracial marriages to happen in this country. And that was decided on substantive due process grounds, that people have a substantive right to marry. And because, as Marshall Blackburn has been saying, you have to have where's the right to marry? The right to marry is not in the Constitution. We have inferred that the Constitution must include a right to marry under the right to privacy, which is a function of substantive due process, which Republicans don't like. So they
Exactly. Okay. So this is really where I wanted to jump in on this, and he's absolutely right. So we have a very interesting dynamic in our country, in our government, between federal law and state law. And the basis for the United States, for this representative democracy, is that we understand that there are potentially different cultures that can exist within different state lines, that these are now, can be wildly divergent aspects of belief or preferences, and they can have the right to some degree of self-governance. And a lot of people, and myself included, think that this can provide a rich tapestry of differing opinions that can then be, in a healthy democracy, not saying we have one, but in a healthy democracy, can allow for really good dynamics and conversation and getting to the basic fundamentals and figuring things out. Good idea, right? Debate. Conversation. We're talking about stuff. We're analyzing stuff. We're trying to figure out what's going to work best for all of us and come to like good compromises. That's the idea, right? Yeah, sure, of course. But, and this is the core central problem with this, is that when you want to argue about states' rights, you also have to go along the lines of the considerations for the basic spirit of our country, how it was founded, not necessarily like but the words we said, not what we were doing at the time. Excuse me, but also our Constitution and the amendments therein. The reason why this is important is that we understand that states' rights can have some rule of self-determination, but not if they go against the spirit of the Constitution, the rule of our Bill of Rights, these types of things. One of the reasons why we've managed to strike down so many racist state laws is specifically because those fly in the face of our Bill of Rights and our Constitution, trying to dictate who can marry who would go against that. Against, specifically in this case, he's arguing our right to privacy, which I would agree. I would absolutely agree. It's nobody else's goddamn business, especially if everybody's a consenting adult and, there's really no reason not to, then it's nobody else's fucking business. So should it be illegalized in any way? No. Now it speaks to a broader problem, however, because while these confirmations are going and they started like tossing out things that they didn't like, things like, Roe versus Wade, or in one point, bizarrely, one of them was speaking out against the right to contraception. Like, not the right to contraception, but like there was a court case where they prevented a state from making contraception illegal. Bizarre. Absolutely bizarre. I can think of no person who is in any degree at least a little bit sane who obviously agrees that there's no reason we should make contraception illegal. It's fucking bananas. Especially, and this is the weird one too, the people who want to make contraception illegal are also people who don't want abortion to be legal. So in every way, they just want any time you have sex, you will probably have a baby. And this goes basically into the very strange, like, Christo-Fash sort of idea that sex should be viewed as sinful unless it's used only for procreation. This is where this all comes from. This is like the genesis of where all this stuff comes from. But the reason why I mention that is that the very same thing applies here. The idea of being able to have a state allow that they can make interracial marriage illegal has its genesis specifically in wanting the right to discriminate. That is where it comes from. That's why they want it. It's fucking bananas. So, and the thing is, it's entirely possible that this dumb fuck just is so up his own ass that he's like, yeah, of course, it's just all about states' rights, all about states' rights. And he doesn't necessarily have a discriminatory bone in his body. It's possible. It's totally possible. But at the same time, is it likely? And I don't know. I legitimately don't know. It's a very strange situation, and I don't know how anybody could misstep and say something like that. It's so weird. It's really, really bizarre. I have some conservative views, but I don't think the modern GOP has much to do with conservatism. No, yeah, it's culture wars and punishing women for sure. But a lot of it is. And also there is this idea that in order to embrace a certain type of conservative view, you have to push back against any type of progress. Apparently, that's been made in the past 60 or 70 years. I guess. It didn't used to be like this. But this is something that I've noticed is a growing trend. We have a growing trend of people who are joining the grand old party and are like having these incredibly regressive views. Like really, really fucking crazy shit. And I legitimately am concerned about it. But if anything else that's really strange is think about in the GOP right now, the people who are constantly saying really fucked up shit are either very young, crazy winged up MAGA people like Marjorie Taylor Greene and Matt Gaetz or Madison Cawthorn, or they're super old dingbats that just seem to like want to go back to the good old times with separate drinking fountains like Mike Braun here. It's absolutely weird. It's more about social conservatism than economic conservatism now. Well, of course. The fucking Democrats are economically conservative, for fuck's sake. Holy shit, man. Oh my God. It's really fucking weird. If the states want to make rules about what they can and can't put into my body, I'd love to move, but with the economy in shambles, I can't. Well, look, and that's another thing, too, that's really strange. When it comes to, and this can be a good place for us to kind of centralize our argument here, is the right to marry whoever the fuck you want gets down to privacy. Everybody is a consenting adult. It harms no one. It's none of your fucking business. Leave it alone. You could say the same thing about people doing drugs. Same thing. I mean, of course you can have laws along the lines of, well, you can't drive drunk, you can't drive high, that sort of thing. But that's in the interest of public safety. That's if you do something, some type of behavior that you do that could harm another person. That's different. But if you're just going to sit around in your house and smoke pot or fucking snort blow or some shit, it's nobody's fucking business. Mind your business. Leave it alone. So should any of that be illegal? Probably not. Should states be able to dictate whether or not it's illegal? Probably not. Leave it alone. Right to privacy. Freedom, baby. Actual legitimate fucking freedom. But that's not really what these people want. Instead, they use the excuse of states' rights in order to argue against your freedoms. And that's what it really is about. It's not even necessarily about whether it's racist or not, and it is. It's about them wanting to remove your freedom. Whoop.